Because Week 16 in fantasy football is not just another week. It is not a hobby. It is not vibes. Week 16 is power. Week 16 is leverage. Week 16 is the moment when all the preparation, all the draft night optimism, all the late night scrolling through injury reports collapses into one brutal truth. You either adapted or you are done. And that is where the waiver wire comes in. The waiver wire is chaos. It is the black market of fantasy football. It is the place where hope goes when the starters you trusted have failed you, or worse, have been medically ruled out at 3:47 p.m. on a Friday. The waiver wire is not polite. It does not care about draft capital. It does not care about your preseason rankings. It cares only about opportunity and opportunity. As we have learned repeatedly in American politics and professional football alike, is everything. Tonight, we are going to talk about that opportunity. We're going to talk about Michael Carter. We are going to talk about Jayden Reed. And we are going to talk about why. Week 16 waiver wire decisions are not about chasing points. They are about reading the system. Because fantasy football, when you strip away the trash talk and the emojis, is a systems game. Let's begin with Michael Carter. Michael Carter's career arc is not flashy. There is no victory lap highlight package, no breathless preseason hype cycle. What there is, instead, is a quiet accumulation of relevance. And in Week 16, quiet relevance is dangerous. Carter exists at the intersection of three forces that fantasy managers should always be watching: injury volatility, coaching pragmatism, and late-season fatigue. When backfields begin to fracture under the weight of a long season, coaching staffs do not suddenly become idealists. They become survivalists. And survivalists choose players who do not miss assignments. Michael Carter is not a headline player. He's not built for hype. He is built for trust, pass protection, short yardage efficiency, a reliable target out of the backfield when quarterbacks are under siege and offensive lines are fraying. That skill set does not trend on social media, but it wins playoff weeks. And here's the key point. The one that often gets lost in fantasy analysis that is obsessed with ceiling. Week 16 is not about ceiling. It is about floor. It is about not imploding. Carter's value emerges not because he is suddenly electric, but because the ecosystem around him demands stability. When teams shorten rotations late in the season, when playbooks contract, when coaches lean into what works instead of what dazzles, players like Michael Carter move from depth chart footnotes to weekly utility players. That is not an accident. That is policy. Now, let's turn to Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed is a very different story. If Michael Carter momentum in fantasy football behaves a lot like political capital, compounds quickly, and it disappears just as fast. Reed's rise is not subtle. It is measurable. Usage trends upward. Target share stabilizes. Design touches increase. And perhaps most importantly, his involvement expands in high-leverage situations. Third downs. Red zone looks, motion plays designed to manufacture space. Those are not decorative plays. Those are statements of intent. When a coaching staff designs touches for a player, they are telling you something. They are telling you that this player is no longer optional. Jayden Reed has crossed that threshold. And in Week 16 that matters, because defenses at this stage of the season are exhausted. Injuries have thinned secondaries, communication breaks down, and players like Reed players, who can operate from multiple alignments, who can turn short routes into chunk gains, become matchup problems. This is not about guessing. It's about reading evidence. Reed's production is not random. It is the outcome of alignment flexibility, quarterback trust, and offensive necessity. When the game script collapses, when protection breaks down, quarterbacks look for familiarity. They look for players who know where to be. Jayden Reed knows where to be. And here is where the waiver wire becomes political, because waiver wire success is not evenly distributed. It rewards those who understand timing, those who recognize when narratives lag behind reality, those who are willing to act before consensus catches up. In politics, we call that being early. In fantasy football, being early wins championships. Now let's zoom out. Week 16 waiver wire decisions are not about replacing stars. They're about reallocating resources. They're about understanding that late-season football is not played the same way as September football. Defenses change. Offenses simplify. Risk tolerance drops. That is why players like Carter and Reed rise now. They are not suddenly better athletes. They are suddenly more necessary. And necessity, as history has shown us repeatedly, is the engine of power. There is a tendency, especially among fantasy managers who have made it this far, to overthink, to chase last week's outlier performance, to assume that the waiver wire is a lottery ticket. It is not. It tells you who teams trust when everything else is on the line. Michael Carter tells you that coaches value reliability. Jayden Reed tells you that offenses value adaptability. And Week 16 tells you that fantasy football, like governance, rewards those who understand systems over those who chase spectacle. So when you make your waiver claims this week, do not ask yourself who scored the most points last Sunday. Ask yourself this instead: who does the system need now? Because in Week 16, the system always answers that question for you, if you know how to listen. And that, for tonight, is what the waiver wire is really telling us. We'll be right back.